The U's Valiant cut through space like a shark through dark water. Its sleek, gray hull reflected little light from the distant stars. Inside the ship, alarms sounded. Red warning lights flashed in every corridor. Captain Olivia Russell strode onto the bridge. Her uniform was crisp, her short brown hair neatly combed. The bridge crew stood at attention as she entered. "At ease," she said. "Status report." Commander Ryan Peters, her first officer, stepped forward. He was tall with broad shoulders and a serious face. "Captain, we've received emergency orders from Earth Command. A colony world called Lumeria has sent out a distress call. They're under attack by a species known as the Vrax." "Vrax?" Russell frowned. "I'm not familiar with them." "They're raiders, ma'am," said Lieutenant Susan White from the tactical station. Her fingers moved quickly over her control panel, bringing up information on the main screen. "They attack weaker worlds, take resources, and enslave populations. According to Galactic Council reports, they've hit 12 planets in the last 5 years." Russell studied the images on the screen. The Vrax ships were ugly things, bulky and covered with weapons. They looked like the space equivalent of club-wielding thugs. "What about Lumeria?" Russell asked. "What kind of world is it?" Dr. Allen Boyd, the ship's exobiologist, spoke up. He was older than most of the crew, with gray hair and kind eyes behind simple glasses. "Lumeria is primarily a research colony, Captain. The natives are peaceful scientists. Their physiology is fragile by human standards. They evolved on a low-gravity world with minimal environmental pressures." "And the Vrax?" Russell asked. "What are we up against?" Lieutenant White displayed more images. The Vrax were reptilian creatures with thick, scaled skin and powerful limbs. They evolved on a high-gravity world, but not as extreme as Earth. They have natural armor and considerable strength, but they've never encountered humans before. They've exclusively raided worlds with less durable species, Dr. Boyd added. The Galactic Council classifies Earth as a death world due to our gravity, atmospheric pressure, and evolutionary history. We're stronger, faster, and more durable than most species in this part of the galaxy. So we'll have a physical advantage if it comes to ground combat, Commander Peters said. "Let's hope it doesn't," Russell replied. "Our primary mission is evacuation and protection of Lumerian civilians." Lieutenant White cleared her throat. "Captain, there's something else you should know. Council protocols prohibit non-approved species from entering consortium conflicts. We could face diplomatic consequences for this intervention." The bridge fell silent. Everyone looked at Captain Russell. Russell's expression hardened. "I'm well aware, Lieutenant, but sometimes doing the right thing means bending the rules. We'll deal with the politics later." She turned to face the main view screen, which showed the endless black of space ahead of them. "How long until we reach Lumeria?" "At maximum burn, 3 days, 17 hours, replied the navigation officer. Russell nodded. "Then we have work to do." She pressed a button on her chair, activating the ship-wide communication system. "All hands, this is the captain. We have received emergency orders to respond to a distress call from the planet Lumeria. They are under attack by hostile forces, and we are the closest ships able to render aid." She paused, looking around at her crew. "I won't lie to you. This mission falls outside our normal parameters. The Galactic Council has not authorized our intervention. But there are innocent lives at stake, and we have the power to help. That's what Earth Fleet does. That's who we are." The captain's voice reached every corner of the ship. In the engine room, Chief Engineer Greg Phillips and his team listened as they worked on the massive fusion drives. On the observation deck, Marines in powered armor suits nodded grimly. In the medical bay, Dr. Heather Martinez began organizing supplies. "We will reach Lumerian space in less than 4 days," Russell continued. "During that time, I expect all departments to prepare for both evacuation operations and possible combat situations. This is what we train for. This is why we're out here." She ended the transmission and turned to Commander Peters. "Have the Dauntless and Defiant acknowledged our orders?" "Yes, Captain," Peters replied. "They're matching our course and speed. Captain Lee of the Dauntless sends his compliments and says they're ready to teach these Vrax bullies some manners." Russell allowed herself a small smile. "Typical Lee. Tell him to save the bravado until we've secured the civilians." In the hours that followed, the Valiant hummed with activity. The massive ship had been designed for exploration, diplomacy, and, when necessary, combat. Now all its systems were being readied for war. In the armory, Marines checked their powered armor suits. The suits were marvels of human engineering exoskeletons that enhanced the already considerable strength of the human body. What made humans special wasn't just technology, but their adaptability and toughness, bred from evolving on a world that constantly tried to kill them. In the launch bay, pilots ran diagnostics on shuttles and fighters. In the medical bay, Dr. Martinez studied Lumerian physiology, preparing to treat injuries she had never seen before. Chief Engineer Phillips pushed the engines beyond their recommended limits. "The safety protocols are just guidelines anyway," he told his team with a grin as they rerouted power and cooling systems. On the bridge, Captain Russell and Commander Peters reviewed tactical plans. "We'll need to establish air superiority quickly," Peters said, pointing to a holographic display of Lumeria. "From what we know of Vrax tactics, they'll have ships in orbit and ground forces at major population centers. The Dauntless and Defiant will engage their fleet," Russell decided. "We'll focus on breaking through to the surface and establishing evacuation zones. And if the Council objects to our presence?" Peters asked quietly. Russell's eyes narrowed. "Then they can send someone to stop us. But they'd better hurry, because we'll be there in 3 days, and we're not turning back." As the 3 human ships accelerated toward Lumeria, their engines burned bright against the darkness of space. They moved faster than any Council peacekeeping force, driven by a determination that many alien species found hard to understand. Aboard the Valiant, Lieutenant Eric Johnson prepared his stealth shuttle for the advanced scouting mission. He would be the first human to set foot on Lumeria, arriving ahead of the main fleet to assess the situation and make contact with any survivors. "Nervous?" asked Sergeant Tina Cooper as she checked her armor nearby. Johnson shook his head. "Not nervous, just focused. Those Vrax don't know what's coming for them," Cooper said with a grim smile. Johnson nodded. The Vrax had attacked a peaceful world, expecting an easy victory. They had never encountered humans before. They didn't know about Earth, a world so dangerous that the rest of the galaxy classified it as a death world. They didn't know that this hardship had forged humanity into something uniquely tough and resilient, but they would learn. Soon, the Yasu Valiant, along with the destroyers UES Dauntless and UES Defiant, continued their journey through the stars, racing to answer a desperate call for help. They were breaking rules and risking their careers, but not one person aboard those ships doubted they were doing the right thing, because that was the human way. Lieutenant Eric Johnson's stealth shuttle slipped through Lumeria's atmosphere like a ghost. The small craft was designed to avoid detection, its hull absorbing radar and other scanning methods. Johnson sat at the controls, his hands steady as he guided the shuttle through banks of purple-tinted clouds. "Vrax ships everywhere," he muttered, looking at his sensor display. The screen showed 12 large enemy cruisers in orbit around the planet. "They've set up a complete blockade." Johnson activated his communication system, keeping the signal narrow and encrypted. "Valiant, this is Scout 1. I count 12 Vrax. Cruisers in orbit. They've established a blockade, but they're not expecting visitors. Captain Russell's voice came through clearly. Acknowledged, Scout 1. Maintain stealth protocol and proceed to the rendezvous coordinates. Roger that, Johnson replied, descending to surface now. The shuttle dropped lower, breaking through the cloud layer. Below, Johnson could see the landscape of Lemuria. It should have been beautiful. The planet was famous for its crystalline. Cities that caught the light of its sun and broke it into rainbow colors. But now many of those crystal towers were broken. Smoke rose from several population centers. Dark ships hovered over the cities like predatory birds. Johnson checked his coordinates and adjusted. Course toward a mountain range north of the main city. Intelligence suggested that some Lemurians had fled to caves in these mountains when the attack began. He landed the shuttle in a narrow valley, hidden by tall, purple-leafed trees. The ship's ramp lowered with a soft hiss. Johnson stepped out, followed by 4 Marines in powered armor suits. The suits were bulky, but allowed the humans to move with surprising grace. Each suit contained its own air supply, weapon systems, and enhanced strength capabilities. Life signs detected, sir, said Sergeant Tina Cooper, checking a handheld scanner. About 200 meters ahead, inside the mountain. Johnson nodded. Let's move out. Weapons ready, but not hot. These are the people we came to help. The 5 humans moved through the alien forest. Lumeria's gravity was about 80% of Earth's, making their steps lighter. The air was breathable, but thin by human standards. Without their suits, they would have felt like they were at high altitude. They reached the base of the mountain, where a narrow crack in the rock face formed a natural doorway. Johnson raised his hand, signaling the team to stop. Hello? He called out. We're from Earth. We received your distress call and came to help. Silence heard him. Johnson was about to speak again when movement caught his eye. A slender figure emerged from the shadows of the cave entrance. The Lemurian was tall and willowy, with silvery skin that seemed to shimmer in the dappled sunlight. 4 long, thin arms extended from a delicate torso. The being's head was oval-shaped with large, luminous eyes that took up most of its face. More Lemurians appeared behind the first one. They stared at the humans with a mixture of fear and wonder. To them, the Earth soldiers probably looked impossibly dense and solid compared to their own fragile frames. The first Lemurian stepped forward. I am Administrator Sulla. Are you? From the Council? No, ma'am, Johnson replied. We're from Earth. We received your distress call and came to help. Earth? Sulla blinked her large eyes. But your world is not even a full member of the consortium. Sergeant Cooper stepped forward. Doesn't matter where you're from. When someone calls for help, we show up. A distant explosion lit up the sky, followed by the rumble of sound. The Lemurians flinched collectively, their silver skin paling to a dull gray color. Please, Sulla said, come inside quickly. The Vracs have patrols everywhere. The humans followed the Lemurians into the cave. Inside, the natural rock gave way to a large chamber. The walls were studded with glowing crystals that provided soft light. Hundreds of Lemurians huddled in groups throughout the space. Many looked injured or sick. How bad is it? Johnson asked Sulla. The administrator's 4 hands made a complex gesture that seemed to express deep sadness. The Vracs came without warning. 3 days ago. They destroyed our orbital communication relay first, then landed troops in all major cities. What do they want? Johnson asked. Our world is rich in rare crystal formations, Sulla explained. The Vracs are strip mining our cities and sacred sites. They're also taking our people. Taking them where? Sergeant Cooper asked. To work. As slaves in their minds, Sulla said quietly. The Vracs consider us weak, and therefore worthy only of servitude. Those who resist are killed as examples to others. Johnson's jaw tightened. How many of your people still need evacuation? Thousands are hiding in crystal caverns beneath the cities, Sela replied. But the Vraks control all major spaceports and have ships in orbit. There is no way out. Johnson exchanged glances with his team. There will be soon. Our fleet will arrive in less than 24 hours. Your ... fleet? Sela asked, hope entering her voice for the first time. 3 warships, Johnson confirmed. Not the biggest fleet, but trust me, they pack a punch. A younger Lumerian pushed forward. But the Vraks have 12 cruisers. How can 3 ships defeat? So many? Johnson smiled slightly. Because they're human ships. The explanation meant nothing to the Lemurians, but they seemed encouraged by the humans' confidence. We need to create a secure evacuation zone, Johnson said, turning back to Sela. Somewhere we can bring in multiple shuttles to get your people out. The central plaza in the capital would be large enough, Sela suggested, but it's heavily guarded by Vrak soldiers. Then we'll need to create a diversion, Johnson said. He turned to his team. Cooper Martinez, scout the city perimeter. Phillips, set up a communication relay so we can stay in contact with the fleet. Williams, inventory our weapons and prepare for ground combat. As the Marines moved to follow his orders, Johnson activated his comm unit. Captain Russell, we've made contact with the Lemurians. Request permission to engage Vrak's ground forces and secure an evacuation zone. After a moment, Russell's voice came through. Permission granted, Lieutenant. The fleet will commence orbital operations in 30 minutes. Give those Vraks a proper introduction to humanity. Johnson turned back to Sela, who was watching him with curious eyes. Administrator, I need to know everything about the Vraks' positions in the city. We're going to take back your world. Sela hesitated. The Vraks are powerful and cruel. My people are not warriors. We cannot fight alongside you. We're not asking you to, Johnson said gently. That's why we're here. On Earth, we have a saying. The only thing necessary for evil to triumph is for good people to do nothing. We refuse to do nothing. A distant rumble shook dust from the cave ceiling. The Lemurians looked up in fear, but Johnson smiled. That's not the Vraks, he said. That's the sound of our ships entering the atmosphere. The cavalry has arrived. Supreme Harvester Drac stood on the bridge of his command ship, the Endless Hunger. His scaled skin was dark green with red markings that showed his high rank. He was taller than most Vraks, with powerful muscles beneath his natural armor. 4 yellow eyes were set in his reptilian face, and a ridge of spines ran from the top of his head down his back. Another successful harvest, he said, looking at the main screen. It showed Lumeria's capital city, where Vrak soldiers rounded up the silver-skinned locals. Yes, Supreme Harvester, said Sub-Commander Krell with a bow. The Lemurians offer little resistance. Their bodies are weak and their weapons are primitive. Drac made a sound like grinding stones. It was a Vrak's laugh. As expected. This sector of space is full of soft species. Easy prey. A junior officer rushed onto the bridge. Supreme Harvester. Sensors detect 3 vessels approaching Lemuria. Drac turned, annoyed at the interruption. Identify them. Unknown design, Harvester, the officer said nervously. They appear to be warships, but they match no known consortium patterns. Show me, Drac ordered. The screen changed to show 3 ships moving quickly toward Lemuria. They were sleek and gray, with clean lines that spoke of advanced engineering. No matter, Drac said dismissively. Our shields can withstand any. His words stopped as bright flashes erupted from the lead ship. Moments later, alarms blared throughout the Vrak's vessel as something hit it hard. We're under attack, shouted Krell. Shield generators 1 and 2 are offline. Impossible, Drac snarled. Return fire. All ships, engage the intruders. On the Hughes Valiant, Captain Russell, watched the battle unfold on her tactical display. "Direct hit on their lead vessel," reported Lieutenant White from her station. "Their shields are weaker than we expected. The Vraks rely on intimidation more than technology," Commander Peters observed. "They've never needed strong defenses." "Against the species they usually attack," Russell nodded. "Target their weapons systems next. I want those ships disabled, not destroyed if possible." "The Dauntless is taking heavy fire, Captain," White reported. "Tell Captain Lee to hold position." Russell ordered. "The Defiant will move to support him." The space around Lemuria lit up with weapons fire. The Vraks had numbers on their side, but the human ships were faster and more advanced. The Vraks, used to easy victories against weaker species, found themselves suddenly on the defensive. On the planet's surface, Lieutenant Johnson and his Marines moved through the crystal streets of the Lemurian capital. They stayed in the shadows, avoiding Vraks patrols as they made their way toward the central plaza. Johnson's powered armor enhanced his strength and protected him from enemy fire. The suit's systems monitored his vital signs and the surrounding environment, feeding information directly to his helmet display. "I count 10 Vraks guards at the north entrance to the plaza," Sergeant Cooper reported over the comm. "They have some kind of energy weapons and personal shields. Similar setup at the east entrance," added Private Martinez. "But their attention is focused outward. They're not expecting an attack from inside the city." Johnson checked his tactical map. "We need to secure that plaza for the evacuation shuttles. Cooper, take Martinez and Phillips and create a diversion at the south end of the city. Williams and I will clear the plaza." "Roger that," Cooper replied. "One diversion coming up." Minutes later, a series of explosions rocked the southern industrial area. Vraks alarm calls echoed through the city as guards rushed toward the disturbance. "Now," Johnson said to Williams. They moved quickly toward the plaza, their armor giving them speed and strength beyond what the Vraks could match. 2 Vraks guards spotted them and raised their weapons. Energy bolts struck Johnson's armor but couldn't penetrate its advanced plating. Johnson raised his own weapon, a non-lethal stun pulse designed to incapacitate rather than kill. The Vraks soldiers fell, their nervous systems overloaded by the human weapon. More guards appeared, firing wildly at the fast-moving humans. Williams launched a smoke grenade, filling the area with thick gray clouds. The humans' helmet systems allowed them to see through the smoke, but the Vraks were blinded. Johnson moved among them like a ghost, disabling one after another with precise strikes. The Vraks were strong, but they had never faced anything like a human in powered armor before. Their natural armor, evolved to protect against the weapons of softer species, cracked under the force of Johnson's enhanced strength. Within minutes, the plaza was secure. Johnson activated his communit. Plaza secured, ready for evacuation shuttles. In orbit, the battle continued. The U's Dauntless had taken heavy damage but remained operational. The U.E.'s Defiant executed a daring maneuver, positioning itself between a Vraks cruiser and the planet, preventing the enemy from firing on the surface. On the Valiant's bridge, Captain Russell received Johnson's message. "Begin evacuation procedures," she ordered. "All available shuttles to the surface. Priority is getting civilians off-world." Evacuation shuttles launched from the Valiant's bay, streaking down through Lemuria's atmosphere. They landed in the plaza where Johnson and his team had set up a defensive perimeter. Administrator Sella led the first group of Lemurians from their hiding places. The silver-skinned beings moved quickly but carefully toward the waiting shuttles. "Your people arrived just in time," Sella told Johnson as she helped organize the evacuation. "Another day, and there might have been no one left to save." "We cut it close," Johnson admitted. "But we keep our promises." A Vraks patrol carrier appeared overhead, its weapons charging. Before it could fire, a human fighter swooped down from the clouds, launching missiles that crippled the wrack's ship. It drifted away, trailing smoke and debris. The wracks thought. "Your people would be easy prey," Johnson said. "They never expected anyone to fight back." "We could not fight them," Sella said. "My people are not built for conflict." "That's why it's good to have friends who are," Johnson replied with a smile. More shuttles arrived as Lemurians streamed into the plaza from all directions. Medical teams from the human ships treated injured aliens while Marines kept the perimeter. Secure in orbit, the tide of battle had turned decisively. 7 wrack ships were disabled, their weapons and engines offline. 3 more had retreated to a safe distance. Only 2 continued fighting, including Drax's command ship. On the bridge, of the endless hunger, Supreme Harvester Drac raged at his officers. "Who are these creatures? How can they defeat our superior forces?" "They call themselves humans," Subcommander Krell reported, his voice shaking. "They come from a planet called Earth." "I have never heard of this Earth," Drax snarled. "Send a message to the Vrax hierarchy. We need reinforcements." "Communications are offline," Krell said. "And our engines are failing. We cannot escape." Drax's yellow eyes narrowed with hatred. "Then we will make these humans pay dearly for their interference. Target their evacuation area. Fire all remaining weapons." On the Valiant, Lieutenant White detected the power surge. "Captain, the Vrax command ship is targeting the evacuation zone." "Intercept course," Russell ordered immediately. "Put us between that ship and the planet." The Valiant moved with surprising speed for its size, placing itself directly in the cones. Line of fire. The Vrax weapons discharged, hitting the human ship instead of the helpless civilians below. The bridge shook violently. Warning lights flashed as systems overloaded. "Damage report." Russell called out, steadying herself against her chair. "Shields at 20%, reported an officer. "Hull breaches on decks 6 through 9. Emergency teams responding." Russell's expression hardened. "Target their weapons systems." "Fire when ready." The Valiant's main guns fired in perfect sequence. The energy beams cut through the weakened shields of the Vrax command ship, destroying its weapon emplacements with surgical precision. "Their weapons are offline," White reported with satisfaction. Russell nodded. "Tell them to surrender or be destroyed." As the message was sent, Russell looked at the main screen showing the evacuation on the planet below. Shuttles full of Lemurians were lifting off, heading for safety. "This is why we came," she said quietly. "This is what humans do." 3 days after the battle for Lumeria, Ambassador John Carter stood before the Galactic Council. The Grand Chamber was filled with representatives from 100 worlds. Some looked at the human with respect, others with suspicion. All listened carefully. "The humans violated consortium protocols," insisted the Vrax representative, one of the few who had escaped the battle. His name was Krell, now promoted after Drax's capture. "They had no authority to interfere in our legitimate resource acquisition." "Resource acquisition?" Carter repeated, his voice calm but firm. "Is that what you call invading a peaceful world, destroying cities, and enslaving people?" "The weak serve the strong," Krell hissed. "That is the natural order." "Perhaps where you come from," Carter replied. "On Earth, we believe the strong should protect the weak." Counselor Zillow raised his thin limb for attention. The insectoid diplomat's wings fluttered nervously. "I must note that because of the human intervention, over 90% of Lumeria's population was successfully evacuated. Without their action, the loss of life would have been ... extensive." Administrator Sella, now representing the Lumerian refugees, stood to speak. Her silver skin caught the light as she moved. "Had the humans not come, my people would now be enslaved or dead." The Council's response fleet would have found only our remains. The chamber buzzed with conversation. Many council members seemed moved by Sella's words, but others remained troubled by the humans' unauthorized action. The High Counselor, a tall being made of what looked like flowing water contained in a humanoid shape, raised a hand for silence. The question before us is not whether the outcome was positive, but whether humans have the right to act independently within consortium space. Carter stepped forward. With respect, High Counselor, we responded to a distress call. That's standard procedure where we come from. Your world is not yet a full member of the consortium, the High Counselor reminded him. You are still under observation status. Then perhaps it's time to reconsider that status, said a new voice. All eyes turned to see the Delvian representative rise. The Delvians were an old and respected species in the consortium. Their blue, plant-like bodies were known for their wisdom and careful deliberation. The humans have demonstrated both technological capability and moral courage, the Delvian continued. While their methods may seem impulsive, their intentions were noble. The debate continued for hours. Some species feared the implications of humans acting independently. Others were impressed by their willingness to help strangers in need. Finally, the High Counselor called for a vote. The results appeared on screens around the chamber. By a narrow margin, the Council ruled that while the humans had technically violated protocol, their actions were justified given the emergency dot as the session ended. Several council members approached Carter privately. My people would be interested in discussing a defense pact with Earth, whispered the representative from Teller, a world near Vrax's territory. As would mine, added the Andorian delegate. We find your species single quotes ... directness ... refreshing. Carter accepted their words with polite nods. The human's willingness to act decisively had made an impression, just as he had hoped it would. Meanwhile, aboard the Hughes Valiant, repairs were underway. The ship had taken significant damage in the battle, but remained operational. Captain Russell stood in her ready room, looking out at the stars. The door chimed. Enter, she called. Commander Peters walked in, carrying a datapad. New orders from Earth Command, Captain. Russell took the pad and read quickly. We're to remain in the sector, assisting with Lumerian resettlement efforts. The crew will be pleased, Peters said. They've grown attached to the Lemurians, Russell nodded. It's good to see our actions approved after the fact, though I would have made the same decision regardless. The Vrax have filed a formal complaint with their government, Peters reported, but intelligence suggests they're also spreading warnings about human space. Good, Russell said with a small smile. Perhaps that means fewer distress calls to answer in the future. In the ship's mess hall, Lieutenant Johnson sat with his team, enjoying a well-deserved meal after days of high-stress operations. I heard. The Vrax are telling everyone to avoid human-controlled space, Sergeant Cooper said, taking a bite of her food. They're calling us Deathworlders, added Private Williams with a grin. Like it's some kind of insult. It's just a fact, Johnson replied. We evolved on a high-gravity world with extreme weather and dangerous predators. It made us tough. And stubborn, Cooper added. Don't forget stubborn. The others laughed. Their conversation was interrupted as Dr. Martinez entered the mess hall, accompanied by Administrator Sella. The Lumerian government wants to present you all with formal thanks, Sella announced. You saved not just lives, but our entire culture. Johnson shook his head. We just did what anyone would do. No, Sella said softly. What you did was extraordinary. Most species would have calculated the risks and decided not to act. You humans, you acted on principle. That's just who we are, Johnson said simply. Later that evening, Captain Russell called all crew members to attention for a special announcement. She stood on the observation deck, with the stars visible through the large windows behind her. "Today I received a message from Earth Command," she began. "They've reviewed our actions at Lumeria and have officially approved our intervention. Additionally, the Galactic Council has voted to recognize the legitimacy of our response to the distress call." A cheer went up from the assembled crew. Russell raised her hand for quiet. "More importantly, we've received messages of thanks from thousands of Lemurians now safe because of your efforts. That, more than any official approval, is what matters." She raised a glass in a toast to doing the right thing, even when it's not the easy thing. The crew echoed her words. As they celebrated, news of what had happened at Lumeria spread throughout the galaxy. The story of how 3 human ships had defeated a Vrax raiding fleet grew with each telling. On dozens of worlds, people looked up at the stars with new hope. If trouble came, perhaps the humans would hear their call. Perhaps the Deathworlders would come for them too. Word began to spread among the stars. If you're in trouble, call Earth. They'll come running not because they must, but because they believe they should. And that made all the difference. In the weeks that followed, more species reached out to Earth, seeking alliances and defense agreements. The humans' reputation grew. They were seen as impulsive and sometimes reckless, but also brave and honorable. The Vrax, meanwhile, avoided human space entirely. They had learned a valuable lesson. Not all species were easy prey. Some were predators themselves, evolved on worlds that made them naturally stronger and more resilient. And some, like the humans, had a strange but powerful belief that the strong should protect the weak, not exploit them. It was a concept the Vrax could not understand, but they had learned to fear it nonetheless. As for the Lemurians, they began to rebuild their world with human help. And whenever anyone asked why Earth had come to their aid when no one else would, they gave the same answer: because they received our SOS, and for humans, that's enough. The space station Harmony 7 hung like a silver flower in the darkness of space. It spun slowly around a neutral star at the edge of Consortium territory. Inside, beings from 100 worlds worked together in peace. Counselor Zillow sat in his private chamber. His thin, insect-like body seemed too fragile for his important job. The lights in his room were dim to suit his large compound eyes. His translucent wings twitched as he reviewed reports on his data screen. A soft chime interrupted his work. "Incoming transmission," said the computer voice. "Priority level, emergency." Zillow clicked his mandibles with concern. Emergency messages were rare in this peaceful sector. "Display," he ordered. The screen flickered. A face appeared, silver-skinned with large, luminous eyes. It was a Lumeran, one of the gentle scientists who lived on a small colony world at the edge of protected space. This Lumeran's face was dirty and scratched. Fear showed clearly in those large eyes. "This is head researcher Pelterra of Lumeria Science Colony," the silver being said, voice shaking. "Please, anyone who receives this, the Vrax have come. They've already taken the southern continent. Our defenses are failing. We need immediate evacuation. Please send help." Loud noises came through the transmission, explosions and strange, harsh screams. The image shook violently. Then it went dark. Zillow's wings fluttered in distress. The Vrax, everyone in the galaxy knew of them. They were raiders and destroyers, caring only for what they could take. They stripped planets of resources and took people as slaves. The Council had tried to negotiate with them many times, but the Vrax understood only strength. The door to Zillow's chamber slid open. John Carter walked in, right on time for their scheduled meeting. The human ambassador was tall and solid-looking compared to Zillow's delicate form. Humans were still new to the Galactic Council. Many species found them strange and a little frightening, with their dense bodies and direct ways. "Ambassador Carter," Zillow greeted, his translator converting his clicks and whistles into English. "Thank you for coming." Carter nodded politely. "Counselor Zillow, is everything all right? You seem troubled." Zillow's antennae drooped. "I have just received disturbing news. Please watch this." He played the message again. Carter's face grew, serious as he watched. When it ended, he asked, "Lumeria, how far is it from here?" "Approximately 30 light years," Azilo said. "It is a small colony, mostly scientists and researchers. They study plants and simple life forms." "They have no military," Carter frowned. "And the Vraks?" "I've heard of them, but we haven't had direct contact yet." "Be thankful for that," Zillow said. "They are conquerors and slavers. They take what they want and destroy what they cannot use. Their bodies are covered in natural armor, and they build powerful weapons." "How long would it take for Council peacekeepers to reach Lumeria?" Carter asked. Zillow's wing membranes trembled slightly. "Our nearest response fleet is 17 cycles, away approximately 3 of your Earth weeks." Carter's expression darkened. "The Vraks will have finished with Lumeria by then." "Yes," Zillow agreed sadly. "By the time our forces arrive, there may be nothing left to save. It is unfortunate, but—" He stopped speaking as he noticed Carter, touching the small device behind his ERA neural implant that connected him to Earth's communication network. The human's eyes had a distant look, as if seeing something far away. "What are you doing, Ambassador?" Zillow asked, mandibles clicking nervously. Carter's eyes focused again. "Earth is only 4 days from Lumeria at maximum burn," he said quietly. "And we have 3 destroyer groups in that sector, running training exercises." Zillow's compound eyes widened. "But humans are not authorized to intervene in consortium matters. The Council has not approved." "With all due respect, Counselor," Carter interrupted, "they sent an SOS. Where I come from, we answer those. Always." "You cannot simply," Zillow began, but Carter cut him off again. "I've already sent the message. Fleet Command is redirecting the ships now." Zillow rose from his seat, wings fluttering agitatedly. "This is against protocol. Humans are not even full members of the consortium yet. Your species is still under observation." Carter stood too, towering over the insectoid diplomat. "Sometimes doing the right thing means breaking the rules, Counselor." "The Council will not approve of this action," Zillow warned. "Then we'll deal with the consequences later," Carter said firmly. "But right now, those people need help. And we can get there in time." Zillow's antennae waved in confusion. "I do not understand. Why risk diplomatic incidents for beings you have never met?" Carter's expression softened slightly. "It's hard to explain. Humans have a saying, all that is necessary for evil to triumph is for good people to do nothing. We try to live by that." "Your species comes from a harsh world," Zillow said. "The Council classifies Earth as a death world due to its high gravity, atmospheric pressure, and dangerous wildlife. Perhaps that explains your ... impulsive nature." "Perhaps," Carter agreed with a small smile. "Or perhaps it just means we're well equipped to handle threats like the Vraks." Zillow sank back into his seat. "What exactly have you done, Ambassador?" "I've sent word to the U's Valiant, UE's Dauntless, and UE's Defiant. They're destroyer-class vessels on training maneuvers near the Arcturus relay. Captain Olivia Russell commands the group. She's one of our best. 3 ships against a Vraks raiding fleet?" Zillow's voice carried doubt. "The Vraks are brutal and well-armed. So are we when we need to be," Carter said quietly. "Humans may be newcomers to your stars, Counselor, but we've been fighting our own battles for thousands of years." Zillow's translator had no words for the strange feeling that came over him. Something about the calm confidence in the human's voice made him wonder if perhaps the Lumerans might be saved after all. "I must report this to the full Council. Zillow said finally. Of course, Carter nodded. And I'll update you when I hear from our fleet. They should reach Lemurian space in about 4 Earth days. As Carter turned to leave, Zillow called after him. Ambassador, the Vracs have never encountered humans before. They do not know what your species is capable of. Carter paused at the door. Then I guess they're in for a surprise. After the human left, Zillow sat alone in his dimly lit chamber. He thought about the message from Lemuria, about the fear in Paltora's eyes. He thought about the human ships, racing through space right now, breaking rules and protocols to answer a call for help. The Council would not be pleased. There would be diplomatic consequences. But for the first time since receiving that terrible message, Zillow felt something. New hope.